We are back, and you best believe that it's League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys. Time for some power rankings. Week 5 of the LCS. That's right, Week 5. They're already way up there. Europe is hanging out still, waiting for Week 4 to start, which is insane because they're legitimately 2 weeks behind. But there was a lot of changes. Well, not a lot. Some changes at the top and bottom of the standings for North America this week, starting with that number 10 team because finally, Mark, FlyQuest decided to show up on the Rift.
Yeah, we finally get to see the real FlyQuest start to show up here. The rest of what we've been wanting to see from FlyQuest, the things we've been talking about, the issues that have arisen here in summer compared to spring, hadn't been seeing the Pobelter performances in the mid lane. Started to see that settle down here this past week. And the performance I really want to talk about, I think did kind of see more of a rebound, was Santorin. This is someone that was a major part of the success for FlyQuest and getting things going for that squad. I think that he had a much better weekend here, being a lot more proactive with this squad.
Yeah, and Pobelter, I mean, on the Azir, a champion, we saw him make so many game-winning plays on Team Liquid. You got to see a little bit more of that here. Viper had a really solid week as well. He almost threw this game for them on the Jax.
Just a little bit.
We'll forget that moment. Remember, Optic, usually it's like, yeah, that's not really a win. You went against Optic. They've looked like a top 5 team all split long. So yes, that is actually a win that FlyQuest and those boys can take pride in. It was very much back and forth. There was a big fight that Optic almost got back and won the game. So by no means was this a clean performance for FlyQuest, but it was still a 2-0 weekend, even though one of them was against Echo Fox, who looked terrible.
Hey, gotta give them some credit for it. And yes, the Echo Fox victory, you're not gonna get a lot of value from here, but this one, you gotta find something in this type of weekend for FlyQuest moving forward. Better positives here. You move up at least 1 spot in the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, when you win that head-to-head against Echo Fox, it's good enough to at least go to that 9th spot. And you might say maybe they should be ahead of 100 Thieves after this week's performance because the Thieves did go 0-2. But they had a very tough weekend against some of the top-tier teams, the top teams in North America. And they actually played both of them pretty close, especially that Liquid game. They probably should have won that game. I mean, obviously,
they really should.
If you're a better team, you win this game. But there's still a lot of positives to take from it, and I think they did enough to at least stay in that 8th spot.
Right, and I think as you're talking about this 100 Thieves, you got to start losing, obviously, any sense of the expectations that we had to start out the year for 100 Thieves and start looking realistically at what you've seen from them production-wise so far and say, okay, this past week wasn't great, but we've seen a lot worse from this type of squad, and there are still positives in that gameplay that you've been watching here from this. You're right, should have been able to find a way to get the victory against Team Liquid, but hey, you know what? This is also a sign that you're just not at that type of level yet, because these type of games against Team Liquid, these are the ones that these better teams, the teams that are at least quote-unquote good here in North America, are able to pull off and secure those type of victories here. So that does seem like the next step for 100 Thieves, but hey, baby steps here, we'll take it, even with an 0-2 week.
Yeah, at least right now, the goal for them is being competitive in matches, not completely rolling over. They did exactly that this weekend, so yeah. Small positives for them. They're still at 3-7. Golden Guardians and Clutch still in that 6-7 spot. Guardians went 1-1, Clutch went 0-2. I think they're clearly the 6th and 7th best teams in North America right now. The top 5, we got a little bit of shifting going on, and I mean, 4 of these teams matched up against each other in a head-to-head matchup, which usually has pretty big implications on these power rankings. But it's Optic that comes in at number 5 still, despite that loss to FlyQuest. I think overall, you're still talking about them as a top 5 team.
You got to be a top 5 team for me right now. What you've seen from them and the way that they play around the map, especially here, given what else goes on in the LCS, the way that they're playing and the way that someone like Crown is really taking ownership of how they're playing and how they're moving around the map and their objective control. I think that has been a great thing for Optic Gaming. He's been a major focal point for the team, and I think also during their success for the most part here, I think Meteos has been a nice steady presence for them as well, holding down that number 5 spot.
Yeah, Crown is a legitimate contender for MVP still 5 weeks in. The TSM CLG rivalry, finally, they snapped it. 1,100 days plus. They finally beat TSM.
All it takes is one Sven Yasuo.
Oh, yeah. That did not look very good. Obviously, how questionable TSM looked in that game, and even against 100 Thieves, wasn't a clean performance from them. That's why they're down a couple of spots outside of the top 3 for the first time. And CLG, we're 5 weeks in, and they're 7-3. They're still above 500. They're tied for first mark.
This is one of those situations where I think a lot of people are still waiting for that, that ceiling to crash in. And hey, that iceberg is still dead ahead for sure.
7 and 9 is not out of the question.
Oh God, please no. You're not wrong about that, though. That's the sad thing knowing about CLG. But I do have at least some faith here that we're not going to be seeing a situation like that. What we've seen from the play, what we've seen from these players, again, has been really great. And hey, of course, always the talk here since he's come over to North America has been about Power of Evil doing his share, doing more than his share in the mid lane to try and carry his teams. But when you're looking at this CLG roster right now, major shout-outs to Ruin over in the top side.
And he's fit in perfectly.
Been a great pickup here for this squad, making a major impact. And I think, again, Biofrost down on the bottom side has been a really steady presence, managing those roams around, getting that vision down for the rest of the squad. CLG, man, things are looking good.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually just been the bot lane has been the only positive for them. Wiggly has had a fantastic second split with them. Ruin, as we mentioned, fit in seamlessly. And this is finally the best roster that Power of Evil has had in North America. And he looks primed and ready to make playoffs for the first time in NA. But again, 7-9, 7-11, still a very real possibility if you are a CLG fan. So CLG comes in at number 3, and the top 2 remain Team Liquid and Cloud9. And yes, Cloud9 just won the head-to-head against Liquid, so maybe they should be number 1. But I still feel like Team Liquid is still definitively the best team in North America. Even if they lose one best of 1 to Cloud9, I don't think they're close enough with those two that Cloud9 overtakes them.
This was so close. This is one of those situations where I just think that, you know what, Team Liquid still had maybe enough kind of goodwill still built up from previous weeks and previous performances that they were able to hold on to this spot here, and that just the head-to-head victory isn't enough for Cloud9 to come ahead here. But this was a very important victory here when you consider that, hey, man, that was Kumo playing in the top side there, and he did phenomenal against a player like Impact, against a jungler like Smithy, giving him that pressure there. This was a man who was on a mission to really prove himself on that LCS stage and do some work. And man, whoo, look at these outplays going on up here. Man was dirty up there in the top side. This was a great week for C9. Good week here, showing again this potential. We've been talking about Kumo being someone that can be, again, developed into one of these talents. And hey man, you've already got Licorice. That is a pretty darn good situation, but you see it here, that depth where if there is some type of injury type of issue here, like you have right now with Licorice, sub him in, and hey man, I didn't see them missing a beat here in the way that they were playing.
Yeah, Licorice obviously dealing with some wrist issues. Not entirely sure. It sounds like he'll be back for the next week, but that seems pretty short when you are dealing with those injuries. We don't know how similar it is to Mickey X's injuries on G2. But Kumo, this guy should not be playing in the Academy League ever again. Please get him on an LCS roster in 2020. And real quick, Fnatic won the head-to-head against G2, and they went to number 1 on our European power rankings. But those teams were incredibly close coming into that match. The gap between Cloud9 and Liquid, it definitely closed with that win, but not enough to take number 1.
Hey, gap's closing, but not quite there yet. Hey, North America, we still got our clear dog here, but hey, you got those two powerhouses over in EU. Makes sense that there's going to be a little bit of jostling.
And it's just Sona for Doublelift until the day he dies in that bottom lane. I think he's addicted to it. He loves it down there. He probably doesn't. No one likes playing it in the bottom lane.